So women and young people constantly face challenges that affects their health, affects their rights, affects their entire well-being as people. But you constantly find out that at the end of the day, when decisions that have to do with these things that interface with them decisions are being made, they are mostly not in the picture. So as young people, I think snap back. There's like the backlash from forces now, external forces and also people at the receiving end. As young people, as a woman, as a guy, what's that deciding factor for you? What was that? At what point do you feel like people, especially women and girls, should be allowed opportunities to be able to pilot conversations that have to do with their health, their rights? What do you think? At what point? No.
So for me, I would say that there's no one singular event that
Okay.
happened. It's just a series of things that you've seen, like as a teenager, as an adolescent, especially as someone who likes to ask questions and ask why. The coconut head generation where they say, "Oh, do this, you're a girl," and you're like, "Why should I do that?" Simply because I'm a girl. What about my genitalia inspires me to want to sweep or to cook or to
Yeah.
just not achieve things outside of my reproductive roles. Yeah. So I would say that there's no just one thing, it's just a series of unfortunate events that has happened to me as a woman that I would say collectively just failed me to move on.
Idoko?
Yeah.
Idoko?
Thinking back, I wouldn't say there's one event that happened, but I can, place it on something that somebody I consider a mentor had mentioned to me in passing. What he had said then is that as you are growing, right, and you tend to pick up leadership positions here and there, how you know as a person, as a young person, how you know that he said it like casually and in the joking matter to say how you know that you have importance or you are relevant is when they are doing family meeting, right? And they call you. That if you are, no matter who you say you are on the outside, right? And at home, they are able to take a decision, they are able to make a decision
And
and not
consult you.
involve you and not
Okay.
consult you. It means that, it means that you are not getting your leadership right. He was trying to make a point, but I also try to dissect it as I do with most things that people say, which is basically also saying that, okay, looking from a leadership point of view as an individual, how are you able to be relevant in such a way that your voice would matter, do you understand, in decision making process as little as from your home and then moving out. So from that experience, from that, just that comment about being invited for family meeting and decision making, I think was one, turning point that I can place and say, okay, this one is, something that has propelled me to push and be engaged in advocacy, decision making, and so on.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So for him, I think is that his family thinks, okay, we see potential in you, we can nurture you towards this. But there are certain people that's out there, you would hear a thing, especially like in Nigeria where we do the whole zoning thing. The last elections is one of such things where you hear, oh, it's this part of the country is time to
Time to
lead and all
lead.
of that. So what do you do, or what would you think? How do I put this question? Like those barriers, that what are those barriers that you think affects leadership for women, girls? Because sometimes they will not invite you to the table. Sometimes you need to create space for yourself. It's one thing for someone to see potential in you and try to support you.
Yeah.
There's another thing for someone to see potential in you and frustrate you.
Yeah.
And with the 30 days run challenge, most people are beginning to come out to see that people who normally would not complain about these things are beginning to even lead the revolution, because right now almost everybody is beginning to feel it.
Yeah.
So
So I think in terms of barriers, right? In terms
yeah,
of barriers, one, the instant I gave about being relevant and being called to, is one barrier,
yeah,
that I think that we need to talk about more. Now, if a process is happening and we say that the young people need to be part of that process, it means that young people need to have the ability to contribute to that process in terms of perspectives, in terms of providing alternative perspectives to what is already in existence, right? What I'm saying in essence is young people need to have the capacity to make decisions and contribute to decision making processes. But how do they get there is the barrier, right? Do they have the enabling environment that strengthens them to know what they are supposed to? Do you get?
Yeah.
Are there opportunities for mentorship for young people to understand spaces or processes? For example, I'll give you a quick example. Maybe student politics, for example, student politics. Not everyone has information as to even how to participate in that kind of process. Do you get? And young people would usually need like guidance on how to participate in these processes and how to, make themselves relevant. You don't just become relevant overnight, and then you just don't become relevant by thinking that you want to be relevant. You need to have the capacity. And in terms of barrier, is that we don't have enough, probably mentorship systems. We are not thinking outside of the regular go to school, But of course, recently we have had, people saying that school is a scam, which is not, but it's just a movement that is saying that perhaps not place so much importance on school,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, not place so much emphasis on school, but even things outside of school that build you to be able to contribute to what is happening about you. So in terms of barrier, I would say that lack of capacity building opportunities for young people to contribute effectively to spaces that matter.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was quite insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say Nigeria has a sexism plus ageism issue. So it's the
Yeah, actually.
even when you see young men, for instance, who want to be, they say you're too young to lead.
Yeah.
What do you know? Modelo and Shei, all of those things, and then it's small child that is doing you.
Okay.
It's small child behavior that is doing you.
Okay.
So I mean, even if we take young men, for instance, it's not like they are there.
Yeah.
You not add sexism on top of it.
Oh.
Everything has dabaru. So
What's the barrier now?
that's spoiled. Oh my god, you people should keep up with this thing.
We'll try. I mean,
So I think one major, and sexism and ageism for Nigeria is rooted in our social-cultural norms and values.
Yeah.
How we see the young person within the society. Even like the example we made with family,
Yeah.
they won't call Idoko, except maybe he's the first son, and then maybe the dad is not around. That's the only condition that is going to be,
so
put
you
into.
is not.
No, I'm just, even you, they will not call you my brother.
Wow.
But in the points they will call you. They can't deny it now. When
When the elders are sitting on the table and you bring your opinion, my brother, they will not listen to you.
really, and I think
And that's not tokenism.
exactly
Within the family unit.
that was what I was going to point
Okay,
out, right?
yeah.
About also decision making and young people and women and all is the fact that because people have clamored so much to say, okay, engage young people, involve young people.
They just put
you
it
now
in and
see
keep quiet.
performative inclusion. Okay, let's just have 2-3 people, young people, be at the
come
meeting.
around.
Do you understand? And what that does is that at the end of the day, you just have young people there. Even if they contribute, their contributions are not being considered. There's no, how will I put it? There's no mutual respect and understanding of what that young person is saying. Even if you comment into a document and then at the end of the day, you just scrap it
Ignore
out
it.
and you're
Tokenism.
So I mean, there's also the part as to whereby, because most times these young people that get engaged are selected, they cannot relate to the challenges of the very
And I want to give an example without shading anybody. So I'm not going to name names because I don't even know the name of this young man. But this young man finished uni, I think maybe 2021, 2022, but he has like a job experience of like 1 million years, all within the UN system. And then we get to the UN Youth Dialogue thing, and he's sitting at the head of the table. Of course, it's going to happen. So, like you said, even those who are selected, are not there because, I don't want to say because they earned it, but because
they know somebody.
there's one English, I know it's not tokenism, but there's one grammar.
Nepotism.
So we have nepotism. So we have that, and then those who now work hard and then find their way to that position.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, but at least the nepo baby knows that he got there by nepotism.
So it shows in most cases.
Right?
So even in the way, so when you are sitting at the audience and you're expecting them to say things that concerns you and pinches your body, and you're hearing all of the diplomatic gibberish, and you're just like, are we living in the same world? Like, what is mad between two of us? That kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. So I mean, it's sad that, like Idoko said, because we have constantly spoken about creative spaces, they have now begun to do performative spaces. So now, what would you say are like, or what would you say is a better way to create safe and enabling environments for young women? I mean, if they don't invite you, sometimes you could create your own table. So how do we begin to create safe spaces for women, young women, girls to begin safe spaces, not just space? Because there's a way I could create a space and throw you in there for the lions to devour you. So we need, the key word here now is like safe spaces for women and girls to max out their potentials.
Okay. I would still relate it to the idea of addressing the barrier of capacity issues, because we have said that, okay, evidently young people need to know what they are doing, need to know your onions to be able to contribute to anything, right? So how are we, I would say that in terms of creating safe spaces, right, how are we able to have conversations or convenings as young people or as women, as the case may be, for people to come together, identify needs and interests, and then continually, how do I put it, continually create some sort of, I don't like using the word mentorship, but some sort of somebody to look up to, right? Somebody to look up to within such space. So obviously, me and you, Bernard, we would have the same number of years of experience based on the work that we do. But if you bring somebody that has like 30 years of experience and throw the person into that space, do you understand? That person would have more insights that the both of us wouldn't have. And that creates like some sort of cross-learning across two generations. Even though, to be honest, the older people, they have not been very honest about their experiences and all, but that's just for another day anyway.
All shade thing.
No. But yeah, that kind of cross-learning, is a way to promote safe spaces within groups of same interest. Age is one thing. That's being young is one thing. Being a woman is is one thing, but having the same interest in terms of what issues you are really passionate about, is another thing. So once you identify that, in our context now, issues around reproductive health, sexual and reproductive health and rights and justice, climate change and climate crisis and how it affects women disproportionately. So you begin to piece out all of these issues and see, who are the young people who are interested in these spaces and who are the veterans, so to speak, who have also done work around this, and then throw them in a mix and see how they can cross-learn. So I think that's one way.
I know.
So if I'm to add anything, I mean, Duko has spoken brilliantly on this, but if I'm to add anything, I think that, to be honest, for the last, let me say 20 years, I mean, even looking at education as a vaccine, for instance, they're like 25 years or so. I think for the last 20 years or so, we've been doing that already within the NGO space. So now we have women-led organizations, youth-led organizations, and even like donors now, grade organizations or partner with organizations just because they are women-led and they are youth-led. So I think that in itself already creates like a safe space. Then we have, certain global conferences and meetings and all of those things that are specific for certain issues. There are conferences for SRHR, there are conferences for education, there are conferences, whatever it is, So I think we're already doing that. But I think what we can do to move this forward is to fund. I mean, you cannot create safe space to bring those people from their houses to your safe space. It costs money. You have to feed them. You not bring them there and be saying safe spaces and then they've not eaten. They're hungry people. You know, it's not going to work. So I think also funding also works very well for, you know, creating safe spaces for women and girls. Yeah, and I think also I don't like this word, this decolonizing and deconstruct. I don't like that word, but I think because personally, so let me give a personal example. At CSW, one of my own, I don't want to say my only, one of my most enjoyed activity was the one that was created by Malala Fund. And it was that because it went beyond the diplomatic gibberish. Like we got to the floor, we sat down, we had conversations. It was smaller, it was intimate. So I think that maybe in a bid for us to, you know, prove that we are doing just as much as exactly, we tend to make spaces very big, and then we throw in young girls and young women into the space, and they are lost. So many things are happening at the same time. And they're just, and they're like, what am I doing here? Where is my spot in this large circle? Yeah. So I think creating smaller safe spaces is also a good way to go. That way people can engage, and mentorship doesn't just involve I sit you down, I tell you this is how I am doing it, but learning from what other people are saying is also a form of mentorship that can build young women and girls.
Fair enough. That's quite insightful. I mean, so to wrap up, I would ask, what's one key lesson from your leadership journey so far, and what's a key message? I mean, it's International Women's Month, International Women's History Month, and for 2025, we're looking at, based on International Women's Day accelerating action, we're looking at ensuring women and girls are supported or their capacities are strengthened to assume leadership. They are supported to a position whereby they are able to take on crucial roles that would improve their health outcomes and social well-being. So what is that thing? I mean, they might pick a lesson. Someone watching this might pick something from there, and it would inspire them to maybe become a leader or do something differently. And then also,
Leadership, right? For me, I think one of the key lessons I had picked first from leadership is starting somewhere, right?
Sure.
Being able to start somewhere, and that place to start is with you, right? So you need to be able to lead yourself, as cliche as that sounds, but it's the idea of being responsible, you know, the idea of just encompass all of the qualities of being a leader and try to place it on yourself, right? Try to imbibe it, and then you start from there, and then you continually move, and then you take on. The thing with that is that you begin to take on challenges, and what again is leadership if not being able to take on challenges and, you know, inspire others around you to take on, you know, challenges as well. So
fair enough. I mean,
I have the same. So just start from where you are. I think maybe when we are leaders, we only look at those people who have gotten to like the top, forgetting that, you know, there are people at the grassroots. What are you doing within your community to change some of the narratives that you want to change? When your parents say something, it even starts from the home. When your parents say something, maybe you have a misogynistic brother, uncle. How do you stand up to those people? How do you speak your truth? How do you do all of those things? I think that's where it starts from, because it's the person that is doing something that they will even be able to amplify and give you ladder for you to even climb. But I mean, if you're not doing anything, you're just waiting for that one big moment when, you know, somehow one angel finds you in your room and then they pick you out and bring you to the central stage as a leader. You don't know what you're doing. So start from where you are. Continue to build yourself. I would say that leaders are people who like to think outside the box. You know, always question the things that you hear around you. Why don't just, because I feel like in this part of the world we do a lot of things just because they said we should do. Why am I doing this? To what end?
Zero curiosity.
There's no. I'm telling you, we're just there.
But you know, there's also
I just
this thing
accept
whereby,
everything.
you know, there's this thing whereby the more you ask questions, sometimes the more
Confused.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And if you're
Sometimes ignorance
asking,
can be bliss. What would you like us to do in that kind of situation? I mean, I get what I don't know. Does not hurt me. It will not hurt me. So I mean, there's that. There's that. So how do we now?
I don't know. Don't can you help me asking the right questions?
I think it's also a valid point, right?
Yeah.
But imagine a life where you don't get to ask questions.
It's
There's
sad.
no level of, I don't know for any other person, but for me, imagine waking up in the morning and everything is definitive, right? I read somewhere that the uncertainty that life comes with, right, is what even makes it worth living. Do you understand? At the end of the day, and I would just liken it to something for you. Have you ever tried to play? For me, if I play music on shuffle, right, is when I'm most happy because you don't know what's coming next, right? You don't know what's coming next. But
If you know what's next, every single
it's boring. I mean, there are times when you want to be boring, but most times it's just the uncertainty that comes with life. And uncertainty comes with asking questions, gaining clarifications, wanting to ask questions, and it just elevates you as a person and your mind. And things are just better to understand. And yeah.
Any last words?
So don't be ignorant.
Wow, all shades steaming once again. Anyways, you heard it here. Leadership begins with you. As we wrap up International Women's Month, we urge you to support women, support girls, support adolescents and young people to not just assume leadership positions, but to fully understand what they are doing in these positions. My name is Bernard Otu, and with me I have
Funam Yakubo.
Thank you very much.
Bye.